Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today is Tuesday, July 25th, and I'm so excited. I'm always excited to be here, but definitely excited because today we get to have a really great conversation with my homie, my accountability partner, Princess Dennis. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes for folks to join in. Please share this with your folks, share this with your peoples so that they can glean from the amazing knowledge that Princess is going to bestow upon us. And so, for folks that are tuning in for the first time, Candid Conversations is a show. I just finally embraced the fact that this is a show. I decided that I wanted to interview individuals that have gone through various life circumstances that feel that they have something to share with the world. And so we've had different types of folks on the show. The last guest that we had was one of my eldest siblings, Rufina Beltrot. If you haven't listened to any of the other Candid Conversations, I want to invite you to take a listen on YouTube. Go to Cindy Bautista-Thomas, go to Candid Conversations, and you can check out all the other programs that we have had here on Candid Conversations. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Princess in, and I'm going to share it. Let's see. Let's make sure our technology is going well. I'm a little shiny today. It's so hot, and we're at... Hello, Princess.
Hi, Nina. How are you?
Nana, I am loving the pink background, the yellow glasses. But those of you who know Princess, if you don't know, you're about to know, right? All of who Princess is and how she shows up in the world is absolutely glamorous. And I had to make sure that I was looking cute today because I cannot be on the show with Princess and not look cute. Okay. So first of all, I want to thank you, Princess, for being a yes, being on the show today on Candid Conversations. And I would like to share with y'all how I met Princess. I met Princess. We were doing a personal development training program, and she and I went through three of the phases of the program together. And I don't recall how we ended up connecting, but I know it took a couple of train rides and us goofing off and just giving each other the eye and laughing and joking. And the next thing you know, we were friends. The next thing you know, we were coworkers. And from that partnership and co-working experience, we became accountability partners where Princess and I actually meet once a week to discuss our goals and we kind of check in on each other. And we did that before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, we found that that was a really great place for us to stay connected in a time where there was so much disconnection, right? So I want to thank you, Princess, for that because she holds me accountable and makes sure that I do what I said I was going to do. And then on the days where I kind of like bullshitting a little bit, she's like, Nana, but you said that you were going to do this. What happened? Right? So I want to thank you for that. So there's a bio when I introduced Princess to the show, but I want you, Princess, to share with the world because folks don't read, but I put that there for the folks that read because we have a few folks that do read. Share with us who are you and who are your people?
So, hello, Cindy and Dr. Nina, as I affectionately call you. Um, so, thank you so much for that great introduction. I am a fashion designer. I have my own brand by the name of Nekai Léon. I just started it last November. And it took a while for me to kind of like own the title fashion designer. But now I own it. I'm clear that is what I do. That's who I am. And it's part of my identity. Um, Nina is my accountability partner. I am very, very grateful to have met her on this journey in life. we hold each other accountable. I have other friends who do that too, but Nina and I definitely do it every single week. And I think it's really important, especially if you are on a journey of self-discovery and just a journey in life of figuring out what you want to do and want to stay focused. It's helpful that you have someone else who also as focused as you to hold you accountable. And I love that Nana does that for me.
I love that. And you already got a sense. Princess is a whole vibe, right? I've actually personally have hired her to be my stylist to help me get, into the groove in my fashion sense. And so she always helps me make sure I think about what I'm gonna put on. Am I gonna have an accessory, right? Like there's all these things that go into being a stylist that you wouldn't otherwise think about. That some people think that you have to have tons of money to look fashionable. And one of the things that you've taught me, Princess, is that it doesn't take a lot of money, right? It takes, you always talk about having like certain kinds of pieces and things, but I don't want to get into your thing just yet. So first of all, let's talk about the very beginning, right? You were born and raised in New York City, right? You started off in the Boogie Down Bronx, right?
No,
And then no,
Harlem.
you started in you started in Harlem and then went into the Bronx and now you are back in Manhattan, right? So let's talk about this journey of trusting the process. One of the things that I truly admire about Princess, I mean, literally, I met her in 2017 and she was talking about designing some type of clothing line in 2017. And she kept at it little by little, kept at it, kept at it, kept at it. And when I don't know if y'all saw that very extra video that I did a couple of months ago when I got my coat, where it was like I literally I felt like the coat was hugging me. Like the coat was a hug from you. So let's talk about your journey with fashion. Did you decide when you were an undergraduate student, I think you went to school, was it in Virginia?
Yes, Hampton University.
You went to Hampton University, right? Did you think to yourself at that point, I'm gonna be doing the things that I'm doing?
No, I did not. I know that I've told you. So becoming a designer has definitely was not my choice. It was very much a God calling on my life. Um, and some people may be confused by that. There are moments in time and in different people's lives when they know that their gift is bigger than them.
Mm.
And I was called bit by bit. At first, it started with me getting vision. So I went to school at Hampton, and then I went to graduate school at Hunter. And then at some point in my life, I got a director's position. No, I was, what was I a director? I was in a coordinator's position, and I started getting visions of a catwalk, like women walking down a catwalk. And I thought that was very odd. And I would ask my friends if they get the same visions, and they said no. And I was just like, okay, this is pretty weird. And then as time went on, the visions continued to increase. It just became a very clear knowing that God wanted me to do something different. Now, granted, when God calls you to do something, sometimes you can be very resistant because that wasn't my plan to do it, and I didn't want to do it. Like, being honest, I did not want to do it. But I have a friend who says stuff like, God won't force your will, but he'll make you willing. Throughout different moments in my life, it was always clear that that is what God wanted me to do. He wanted me to express myself through design. So I went through a breakup. I started painting with my art pieces. People would say they look like fashion illustrations. Like God kept putting different notes in me to ensure that I knew I was supposed to be a designer. I had a job at one point where I was like, you know what, let me just take up sewing classes. I took up sewing classes. There was an important meeting I was supposed to be at the time. I was a director, and I missed the meeting because I was in sewing classes. Like, and I remember my cousin saying, You didn't think to lie? Like you, like I had so many supernatural moments. Honestly, the best term to use is supernatural moments that continue to point me towards the knowing. I mean, and I'll say this: the most pivotal one was I remember I was taking design classes at FIT, and I did not want to be there. Still being resistant. I remember my internship. I was with this woman who's a designer now. She designs pieces for Little Kim, Katerina Lankova. She said, people don't come up to you and tell you things about your life. People don't do that. And I said, no, nobody does that. And she was like, you should talk to God. Like, you should talk to God and see what happens. And so that night I said, God, I'm in pattern making class. I don't want to do it. Like, I think maybe you want me to do fashion editorial, something that led towards a gift I already had, like writing, something that would not have me go back to school, So I was like, give me a sign. So that day, I remember I was going to a friend's birthday that I didn't want to go to, because sometimes when you're being called to do something, you can definitely, it could be like done in a way that you're not happy, you're not pleased. Yeah. So it was very hot that day. I remember I got off the wrong stop. I was wearing a skirt that I made in class, and this Indian man came up to me. I was waiting for the bus to take me to the rest of the way. This Indian man came up to me and said, you're going to be a famous fashion designer one day. And so I was just like, so mind you, the night before, this woman said, people don't come up to you. And I had asked God to send me a sign. And I'm still waving this man off. I was like, oh, he just thinks I dress nice. That's all he thinks. Then, like, I'm not even going to pay attention to what he's saying. And then he was just like, my third eye sees it. You're going to be a famous fashion designer one day. I had never heard of this terminology before. I remember I was like in my 20s, like late 20s. And I was just like, all right, sir, move it along. And I was on the phone. So I thought he was being rude. So then he said, this year you're going to travel to LA, and I had just come back from LA in July. It was me and my friend. We went to LA for a birthday trip. And I was like, I remember I was talking to my friend Diane. I was like, Diane, I got to talk to you later. And I was just like, oh, I went to LA. He was like, I know. And he was like, I'm telling you, you're going to be a famous fashion designer. And I got scared. I got nervous. I've never had that happen. Like, oftentimes you have to be careful what you ask for, because when you get it, you don't know how you're going to receive it.
Let's talk about that, because sometimes we want something, right? I see a lot of folks on here that are also people that are seers. I see people on here that are people that have, delved into some dreams where dreams came to them. I'm seeing people on here that have entrepreneurships, endeavors, and you're probably talking to people that are like, yes, yes, and yes, right? So tell a little more about that, right? So you get this vision, this man talks to you, and then what? Because sometimes we ask for something, we get signs, and then sometimes we're not obedient moving forward in that direction, right? Did you move forward right away in that direction?
Well, so I was already in FI. I was already taking fashion design classes, but I still wasn't he said it, but I was still, the hard ones with the hard ones, I still wanted to be right about, I don't know that, and this is God used a perfect stranger, someone from a different race, randomly. I got off at the wrong stop randomly, or so I thought. I dwelled on it a bit, but I was just like, I remember, and then I went back to class, and class was hard, and I was just like, dang, I'm still here. Because saying you're going to be a famous fashion designer one day is very different than like, it's going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen tomorrow. There's still a process. And I really didn't. Also, when you often see other people your age doing life and living life and not going through the same struggles you're going through, you're like, why me? Because that's another thing too. Like, I had a thought process. I wanted to be a principal of a private school. I was in a mentorship program with Black principals who had private schools in Long Island. And that's what I thought wanted to be. And God was just like, no, no.
Wow. Wow. So you continued to take the classes at
Mhm.
FIT, but
Yeah.
and it sounds like it was a little bit like
Yes.
begrudgingly. Like you were
Yes.
like, I know I need to do this, but I kind of don't want. But then if anyone, you need to check out Nekai Léon, check out her website, check out her Instagram, because Princess is a whole vibe, right? Like she could walk out the door just to go grocery shopping, and from her eyeglasses to what she's wearing on her feet, it's a whole fashion statement. Like she is a walking art piece. Right.
Oh,
So, and I always say that to Princess when I see her. I'm like, this is everything. I'm like the glasses, the blouse, the shirt, everything. Right. And so tell me a little bit about that creativity, right? That, getting to a place where at what point did you embrace it and say, you know what? I'm moving forward and I'm going to start on this path of figuring out where my creativity is going to lead me.
you know what? It makes me think of there's no mistakes in anything, right? So I remember in
Mm,
undergrad, I had an elective class to take, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna take an art class. It's gonna be easy. Because like oftentimes in our communities, like the creatives now it's becoming very popular, but back in the day, like being a creative, like even that terminology just it didn't fit, you know? So I was like, I'm gonna take a painting art class. It's gonna be easy. It wasn't. Obviously, it was not. I'm not an artist, or rather, I wasn't an artist. It was not an easy class to take. So I took painting, and it kind of stuck with me. And so then I had a bad breakup, and my therapy was to paint. Like I started painting like work,
mm,
and one of my friends was like, your work could be in a gallery. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not for that. It's really for me, a way for me to purge like my pain, you know? And at that time, I had already gotten the visions of the catwalk, but I didn't know what it was going to go into. And later on I found out that there are a lot of designers that paint, like they're artists, and so that creativity was birthed through pain.
wow.
It was a way for me, it was a great distraction for me to release pain. And it wasn't like I was still getting the nudges of fashion, I was still getting those nudges, but someone was just like, your work looks like fashion illustrations. And I'm like, God won't leave you alone. Like if there's something that God has for you to do, he won't leave you alone. Like he'll find. And I heard it, I was like, thank you, you know what I mean? Like, all right, like even there was a woman, I remember this woman who I felt like didn't like me. She was like, I think you're in the wrong field. I feel like you need to be in fashion. And I was just like, lady, please. So they just try to get me out of here, like you're just trying to get me out of this job. But really my creativity, Nina, started through pain. It was a way for me to release the pain I was feeling.
Mm,
I was painting women of color, like in empowering poses and beautiful pieces, as a way to release or gain back what I thought I was losing within myself.
mm.
Um, yeah, so that's how my creativity started. It was birthed through a painful situation.
Which is amazing because the way you talk about it, I mean, even just the way you talk is so like poetic,
Mm,
right? Like there was a painful situation and art allowed you to process the
yeah,
feelings. Like some people, I truly believe, that as a social worker, narrative therapy isn't the end all and be all for people's healing. Like healing comes in so many forms. And I find that creativity for so many people is a way to healing,
yeah,
and that out of your pain you were able to birth this creativity of art to
yeah,
heal yourself, but then in healing yourself you were able probably to heal others, because when I look at certain art pieces, some certain art pieces make me like cry, right?
yeah,
Some certain art pieces, they put me in a place of the person where they might have been while they were creating that piece, right? And we could think of that when folks are singing, right? The art of singing, the art of dancing, where people put all of who they are, the art of cooking, even, right?
mhm.
And so the art of laughter, I'm thinking about all the ways, the art of coffee. I see Doctora is on here, Dr. E, and I'm drinking your coffee right now, right? Courtney's on here. Courtney is someone who has used his gift of sharing with the world, of guiding conversations. And those are also creative ways of healing, right? And so when you created these pieces, and I remember when I first met you and you started working, we started working at the same place, you had brought in these beautiful postcards.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Princess was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of made these," and it's just sort of like and we do that sometimes with our gifts, right? And
Right.
we were all like, "Oh my gosh, like you could truly sell these and frame them,"
Yeah.
right? And so, which is interesting because people that may know you now as a fashion designer and a stylist and all the things, and I feel like you're a trendsetter in so many ways, right? And the way that you kind of just even like I remember one day Princess came to work with these glasses. I think it was the hot pink ones,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Where did you buy glasses like that?" She was like, "Oh no, these were sunglasses." And then just even the way she said it, she was like, "Oh no, I wanted them, so I took them to the nail." And I was just like, "How did you think to even do that?" Right? So anyway, so I just want to share that there's some folks out here that sometimes we think that healing looks like you have to do ABC. I'm not saying some of y'all need to contact a therapist, okay? Yes, the painting, yes, the dancing, yes, the whatever you do to be creative. And some of y'all need the therapy, right? Like we could do both ends when it's needed. And also like let's embrace and acknowledge and normalize that creativity can equal healing. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. E. Creativity equals healing. So I'm so excited because I want y'all to hear. I'm going to stop talking because I really want you to hear from Princess how she went from, okay, I'm embracing that this creativity is mine, right? The way in which you connected with spirit in various ways, whether it was through your ancestor, through, spiritual connections, through prayer, right? Through your community of believers, you know, so there were a few things, right?
Yeah.
You're an amazing curator of connection, right? Making sure, and not everyone could say that, as Black women, that they have healthy reciprocal friendships and
Yeah.
connections. So I want to hear how you went from that to like that process of like, what am I doing here, right? Like, how did you get to Nekai Léon, which I love the name. If y'all haven't checked out the website, please check it out. Beautiful art pieces that Princess will share about.
So what so the process to getting to Nekai Léon was a very, very long process, and every step was very important because I talked about previously, it was the visions, me being resistant and being resistant for a very, very long time. Then I was in the program Momentum, where I met you and other amazing people. Hey, Malika. Hey, Phyllis. Um, and Phyllis is my email. She put me on to Momentum. And that was also
Oh,
begrudgingly. I kept finding all these excuses as to why I should not be in Momentum. And God was like, you need to be there. And yeah. So even before Momentum, I was in this program called Founders Institute. And it's a program geared towards assisting individuals who want to be founders of an organization or a program, right? And so
mm.
I came up with the name Nekai Léon. I was trying to figure out a name that would go with both my mother and my dad, but for whatever reason, so my mother's middle name, my mother is Sierra Leonean, but her mother is Nigerian, and her middle name is Adenike. And so I shortened Adenike to Nekai, and my mother was born in Sierra Leone, so I put it as Nekai Léon. I went up to a teacher. We would often, each week, we would be introduced to millionaires. And one teacher in particular was letting us know the importance of a name for your business. And so I was just like, I'm going to ask him. He owned a pet store, like a pet company for bow ties for pets, and he was a millionaire. And so he came up to me. I came up to him rather. Everybody was crowded around him, you know, like wanting to get some insight. So I was like, you know, what do you think of the name Nekai Léon? And he was just like, I don't like it. It's America is going to be scared of it. And so in my mind, I'm like, you know, you have to be careful too. When you asking people something, they're not always going to be in agreement with what you say. So you have to appreciate the feedback, even though you don't agree. Appreciate the feedback and keep it pushing. So he went on to let me know, like, you want to think of McDonald's, like those names, like McDonald's, right? And also, let's be clear, this is a white man letting me know this. You want to think of McDonald's, you want to think of Gap. Like, he wanted me to think of names that didn't have any sort of real ethnic association. Also, that was also going in my mind. He doesn't know fashion because there's plenty of ethnic names in fashion. This is also a man who's possibly like a middle American, rich, wealthy man who has now grown to be this person. For him and maybe the people that he surrounded himself with, he probably thought he was helping me. He probably thought that, you know, assimilate, water down who you are.
Wow.
It was clear to me, as much the visceral reaction he had to it, it was very clear to me that that's the name of my brand, right? But I still didn't know how I was going to make Nekai Léon come to life. It wasn't until the pandemic. And I know that the pandemic was a very difficult time for many of us, right? However, for me, the pandemic represented a time for me to be still and really think of how I'm going to get this done, right? I knew, like, and right before the pandemic, I was with a group of my colleagues who went to dinner. This woman said, "I love your coat." Like, so you know, at this time I had graduated from design school, and this coat that I made in school, people would always tell me how much they love my coat. And I was just like, you know, to kind of cost it out in the industry, like, people also just don't understand how expensive it is to make, like, start a fashion line. It's really, really expensive. Like, just to do a sample of a coat, they said it was $500. That's just to do a sample. That does not mean the sample is going to be correct.
Wow.
And a sample is like the finished product, and then we'll do changes, you know? That does not mean the pattern. That does not count for any sort of production. That does not mean a tech pack. Like, there's so many things you have to pay. And I knew I wasn't making money like that to be able to just pay for a sample. So I started with dresses. And I was talking to, you know, folks in Momentum, and I was talking to, you know, like, people that I knew. And I was also going to start with a certain segment population, plus size women only. It wasn't until the pandemic hit, this woman was just like, "I love your coat." And I had gotten compliments and I was like, I got to start with coats. That's what I got. It just something hit me. So right before they shut down the businesses, I went and got this fabric. I went, before they closed everything down, I went to Queens, took it to my pattern maker, my sample maker, and was just like, "Can you make this coat?" But for me, like, and I had already had my sample that I made in college, but I was just like, "Could you make it for me and add these touches," you know? And that's what she did. I had to wait, of course, until the pandemic, because I couldn't go to her. And so during that time, during the pandemic, I was supposed to get surgery because I had fibroids. I was supposed to get surgery. My elective surgeries were canceled. So I had some fabric, like, I wanted to, like, get a pattern. I mean, not a pattern, a mask. I saw from my friend, she had a mask, and I was like, "Oh, let me buy a mask from the same person she bought a mask from." And the woman was just like, "No, you can't choose the fabric. I have to choose it for you." And I didn't like that, because I was like, "What?" I'm like, "This is gonna be my face. If I don't like it, I'm gonna be unhappy." So I was like, I had random fabric in my home. I was like, I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a mask. I made a mask. I put it up, like, "Oh, okay, guys, you know, I made a mask." And people were just like, "Oh, I would buy that from you." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And I'm just like, "Okay." So I started selling masks. But it was because a denial happened, my surgery, the denial. If my surgery would have went on, I would not have been making masks. But my surgery was denied. So I started making masks. I made about $7,000 to $8,000 from making masks.
Wait, let's say that again for the people in the back. But let's talk about how you and me were on an accountability call. And Princess had just posted her mask. And I was like, "Princess," on Instagram. And I was like, "Princess, that mask was so beautiful, that fabric. She was like, I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe I'll make some. People are DMing me for masks. And I was like, yes, they're DMing you for masks. And it was so amazing to see it in real time. You embracing, like, and they weren't like these random masks, they were gorgeous. Every time, I think I bought one for everyone in my family. Every time I wore it, people were like, "Oh my God, where'd you get it?" It was like a fashion statement, right? And so say that again. A denial turned into how many thousands of dollars?
I made about $8,000 selling my mask. So I was supposed to get surgery. They denied all elective surgeries. I made a mask, and only I made the mask because the young lady told me I could not choose the fabric that I wanted to use. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make. And then I used for the ears. I used elastic scrunchie that you get from CVS.
Yes, yes. And I was like, this is genius. So this live will be saved. It's gonna go on my Instagram, on Princess's. Princess will get the link. You can also go on the YouTube page for Cindy Bautista-Thomas, Candid Conversations, and you'll be able to hear this conversation as well as the others. And so this is so exciting. So Princess gets denied this surgery, goes into full entrepreneurial mode with the mess. I remember at one point you were like, I've been sitting here making masks all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? How? Right?
Yeah. I was getting tired.
Yeah, right. So we make the masks, right? Then things start winding down.
Yes, things start winding.
And you got, I don't know what it was that put you in high gear, that you were like, okay, it's time for
Yeah.
the coats.
So it's funny. So then I wound up getting the surgery, but right before I got the surgery, because I was getting tired because it was exhausting making the mask. It was amazing, but it was exhausting. My sewing machine breaks down. And that's when I was like, okay, God is also like, no more orders. Like, now it's time to heal your body. God will talk to you. Like, if
Come
you
on, somebody.
listen, God and I, we have a great relationship. I mean, it can be turbulent at times, but God definitely was. I made the mask, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put some more orders. My sewing machine, and mind you, I hadn't used my sewing machine in years. Like, it was like a good 6-7 years. Like, I hadn't used that sewing machine. She worked for me though until the time I had the surgery. So I was just like, okay. And life started opening up a bit more. I was able to get to Queens. I was able to get my sample. Sample looked amazing. Right now, I'm going through the process. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do coats, right? What does that look like for production? And then I remember I went to go visit my mom because at the time she moved to Florida. And I was like, I'm going to talk to this guy on 38th Street. He's in a garment district. I'm going to go see about him, like what production would look like. And he was the one that let me know, like, you need to do one-offs of your coats. That's what you need to do. Like, the climate has changed in the fashion industry because of the pandemic. The climate has changed. He was like, you need to do one-offs. You need to do it made to order. And I didn't, because I didn't have access to those sort of companies, I didn't understand how it could be done. But this was God talking to me through him, because when something seems bigger than you, and that was another part of the resistance. I was like, I don't have thousands of dollars to start a clothing company. I don't. And that's just not even just to start it, to keep it going. Because like, reasons why we can go into the store and it's something that's $80, that's because the people that got paid, like, first off, they made thousands of that to even make it cost $80. The people that got paid barely got paid. I mean, there's just so, and if you get the chance, and if folks, if you get the time, understanding that fashion in general is the second most polluting industry in the world.
Yes.
And it's that way because of the constant consumption of fashion. Prior to, and back in the day, it used to be a made to order process, like where certain people can get certain things made, And if you want it fancier, you had to pay a certain amount of money to get it, like something bespoke, you know? But yeah, there's a reason why things are so cheap, you know? So when he gave me that idea, I started researching made to order companies. And I was like, oh, wow, there is a niche designer group that are making like made to order pieces. And in my mind, I saw it like an art piece, because with like an art piece, it's like one of a kind, and it's special. And this is the process I've chosen to take until I can get to that point where I can make maybe smaller collections, you know. But I knew I had to trust in the fact that this information has been given to me for a reason. I need to follow through with it.
Mm.
And so I did.
Wow, wow. And I remembered, that whole thinking of like, this is gonna be a lot, right? I remember that whole like, I'm gonna have to figure this out. And you figured it out. You found out who you needed to talk to. You went to meetings and webinars and website, YouTube videos, right? Like to figure out like what would this look like? What would this look like if this made to order? And I love that you talked about the sustainability, because I was going to get to that, because people don't realize it, right? That the fashion industry is the industry that, has the most contribution to pollution,
Yeah.
right? So when you're thinking about a model that you have designed where it's made to order, it's helping our planet. Like, that's real talk. Like, look at the thunderstorms and things that occurred a couple of weeks ago, where just in my hometown there was all this flooding,
Right.
right? And so we have to think about our Mother Earth and how we're taking care of our Mother Earth. And so I love that your brand is also supporting Mother Earth, and really thinking about, how can I still be creative, still support people in looking fabulous and beautiful while taking care of Mother Earth, right? And so there were a lot of, you talked about, the importance of like who to talk to, and being mindful of what type of information people share with you. And this has happened to me tons of times, where you have an idea about something, and someone says, people are not going to pay that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that. And I remember that in thinking about pricing, I'm sure that there were so many things that you had to consider in thinking about who your audience was, who your customers are, right? And so I'd love for folks to hear, and you could share if you'd like, how did you go about creating your pricing structure, but also just even like how people purchase your product, right? You decided this is my amount, and people paid
Yeah.
it, right? And so, what was that like, making that decision? Were there sort of conversations in your head about, should I charge this? Should I not charge this? Right? Like, what were you thinking?
No, absolutely. That part was very much a struggle. And so like I say, like I think that this time is such an interesting time, because people like creatives, like these terminologies are very rampant now, right? Whereas I still struggled with the idea of my artistry being respected, and could not possibly do that. But I also understood that in order to make, I would have loved to charge Zara prices on my pieces. I would have loved to do that. But as I researched, I realized I'm not Zara. I can't. I financially, the yard like the fabrics I'm using to even make the coats are 25 to $45 a yard. Like I'm using really amazing quality fabrics to make the coat. It's a good 4 yards. There's no way I could charge a Zara price. That's already the Zara price. Like a good 200. That's already like. Then it's the workmanship, Like I mean, and then also you're not thinking about all the other things you've had to pay for, all the other, like all of that, and that's also understanding. When you know business, you understand a price and why something costs what it costs. But when you are oftentimes, especially people of color, are often in scarcity mode. So we're always looking for a bargain. And I get it, because I've been in scarcity mode many times in my life, where you're trying to cut corners. but I had to realize, like, you selling art. This
Mm.
this isn't for a scarcity customer. This is an art piece that God told you to do. And when God calls you to do something, he'll make a way for you.
Wow.
And so my cousin was the one, when she first saw my coat, she was just like, okay, so your coat was $1,200. She's the one that said that. And I was like, heart palpitations, like, oh my God, no, never. It's not $1,200. But I knew realistically I would have to be in that price range, because, or else it just wouldn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make one of my coats is $500. That's just to make it.
Wow.
It wouldn't make sense for it to be. It can't be. And in business, you double. That's just business. So I had to trust. I remember even when I went to the guy who was like, you have to make one-offs, when I told him the price, he was like, no, your customer is a luxury customer. That's who your customer is.
I like that. I'm a luxury customer because I got me a coat, y'all.
That's right,
I got
Nina.
me a coat.
That's right.
So,
Okay.
I mean, so let's talk about who makes the coats and how that happens. Because we're talking about this beautiful art piece that you're literally selling, right? But I want folks to hear, like, how you had no intention of it being done the way it's being done.
Correct.
Could you share that, please? Because that was just phenomenal.
Certainly. So I incorporated my business. I did the logo. I ordered the boxes from China. Because my items are luxury, I wanted to put them in a gorgeous box, a special box. When I tried to price it out in America, it just was above and beyond my price point. So I remember, and that's why I said nothing goes to waste. I was talking to this dude, and he gave me the idea of going through Alibaba for my boxes. So nothing goes to waste. We don't talk anymore. But it was great because he gave me that idea, and that worked out. So yeah, and I did all that. I ordered my boxes from China. They came from China. Paid all this money to get everything started. And I had my sample maker also was making my pattern maker was also making my samples. And so I thought, like, I would design, do the design, run it by her. She would then execute everything, and then I would box it off to my customers. So I remember I went to go pick up one of my samples, and she told me, she was just like, Princess, I can't make your coats anymore. So I was going to launch my business in October of last year. This was in August when was it August? I think late July. She told me that she couldn't make my coats anymore. Now, I hadn't sewn a coat since I was in design school. And that was like a good 8-9 years ago, right? So I think I'm on the verge of having a heart attack because I'm just like, who's gonna sew it? Like I can't sew it. Who's gonna sew these coats? And I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm like, why did she tell me this? And she was just like, because she's a seamstress, an amazing seamstress. It was causing her back, like over time. This was like an older woman over time, and to create a coat, it's a lot of work to create a coat. It is not an easy job. She said her doctor told her to choose the item that is giving her the most bodily pains and to stop that item. And it just so happened in my coat. It just so happened.
Wow.
Now, she could have told me this like before I incorporated, because if she would have told me before I incorporated that she wouldn't be able to sew the coat, I would not have moved forward. Because in my mind, I was just like, who's going to sew it? I'm not sewing it. But God waited till I had incorporated, ordered my boxes from China, paid some thousands of dollars for my boxes.
Yeah.
Like did all of the things I needed to do to ensure that I'm set up. For her to say, I can't. She was like, but I can make your pattern still. I can. And I was like, I remember I was just like, you gotta stop. I'm so sorry. You have to stop talking, because like my heart, I couldn't take it. I could not.
Wait, I love how you were like, you need to stop talking.
Yeah,
like let's talk about setting boundaries for your feelings. You were like, I need to take this in little by little.
Right, because you saying it so cavalier, and I don't got no one to sew my boxes. Like, I mean, my coat. Like, who am I going to get? I'm supposed to launch in October. You didn't, your back wasn't hurting before. Like, I was very insensitive, very, like, I hit, your doctor said that, and your doctor couldn't have told you, like, all of these things. Now, and mind you, these thoughts didn't leave my mouth, but this is what I'm thinking. Because I'm just like, what am I going to do? And I'm at the threshold where I can't stop. I've ordered the boxes. Like, I'm incorporated. Like, what am I going to do? So I remember I was like, I called my friends, like, okay, maybe they know some people who could sew the coats. Like, maybe they, you know, like, and I'm asking her, she was like, I know people, but I wouldn't trust them to sew your coat. Not helpful. Not helpful. So I leave her. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I heard it in me, like, you're going to do them. Wow. And I'm like, I'm not, though. I'm not going to be able to do it. So I remember I was going to go to Houston. My flight gets canceled to Houston. And that weekend, I'm sad, right? Because I wanted to go to Houston. And I was just like, let me go to Mood. Let me get some fabric. Let me try it. Let me just see if I could do it, you know? So I go to Mood. I'm looking at the sample she made for me. I'm looking at the sample I made back in design school. I'm going through the process. I'm looking on YouTube. I do a coat. And it doesn't fall apart. It doesn't disintegrate. Like, it's a legitimate coat. Like, and I'm like, oh my God, friend, you're gonna do it. Like, this, and I did it, and then I launched my business in November, and I made those coats.
Gorgeous, gorgeous coats. And Dr. E said, love it when trying moments teach us to problem solve quick.
Yeah.
I mean, the turnaround and the process. And I feel like for me, I feel so privileged and humbled to have been part of that journey with you, because week to week, you were like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? Right. And I remember that week when you was like, Nana, I'm going to sew the coats. I was like, yes, yes. Right. And so amazing. So she sewed coats, y'all, all kinds of colors, all kinds of fabrics. So the folks that were like, oh, it's too expensive, people made their little payment plans when they needed to, me included, right? And you know, and it's about like supporting, right? I'm a true believer in supporting small businesses when I can and when it's possible, right? Because truth be told, we support a lot of folks that don't look like us. We pay a lot of money for things that folks that don't look like us, right? So sometimes it's really thinking about what is my intentionality. Like for me, I purchased a coat because I was so proud of myself, because I had done some milestones and some things that I had wanted to accomplish in my personal and professional life. And because I accomplished those things, I said, I'm buying myself a coat. And when I tell you that that coat hugs you, like it's giving you a hug, like you're getting a hug from Princess and her ancestors. Let's be clear, because that's what I feel, right? So that is so amazing. So coat season is on pause until the fall. Tell us about the amazing, fabulous dusters that you got going on right now for sale.
So I was just like, okay, Pran, you know, we have a legitimate business. You know, you got your sales going. How are we going to transition into the summer? And I was thinking of an idea, and then I landed on dusters. So sometimes people call them kimonos. They're pretty much pieces. They're completer pieces that someone would use on top of an outfit they already have. You can use it in cotton or silk. And mine's, or knit. Some people do it in knit. Mine's are 100% silk, in gorgeous patterns. And I was like, you know what, Pren? We are going to stay in the realm of outerwear. So that is what my business now will move until eventually I grow out other pieces. I want to stay in outerwear. So yeah, my dusters are 100% silk. They're very dramatic. In all things, because I feel like your body is a canvas. You dress it in the way you want to be seen. And if you are if you're dressing it in art pieces, you're going to be seen, appreciated the way art is. And it's not, also, it's not regular. It's not something you could just find. It is, oh my God, they're dramatic pieces. Like my dusters, just as like my coats are dramatic, my dusters are dramatic. And yeah.
I love that. I mean, just even the way you said it. And I love it. Dr. E says, I love drama. David said, I want to see these fabulous coats. Oh, no, that's Carmen. Carmen, you want to go to Nekai Léon. I put the website in the chat box. On when I post a video, I'm going to post the Instagram. Princess, if you get a chance, put your Instagram for Nekai Léon in the chat so folks could check it out. So I'm so proud of you, Princess. I know I've shared this to you offline, but I want to share it one-on-one. I'm so proud of the journey that you have taken with your styling, with your product lines, and I know that there will be multiple and many more to come. I am really inspired by the way you allow God to move in your life, the way that you're open to possibilities always. Like the fact that you take situations and you're like, yes, there's been challenges and obstacles, but that you can glean from them tools, strategies, new learning opportunities to not only progress for yourself, but you also in the business of sharing your tools with others. And you do that so generously. And so I want to thank you for that. So at this time, I want you to share with folks any sort of lasting comments about trusting the process. And then I'm going to invite folks to put some questions in the question box. I see that we already have one. So Princess is going to share sort of some lasting thoughts about trust the process. And then we'll open it up for questions. So Carmen says, wow, I struggle with wearing pieces of clothing that make me stand out. Your words just hit home. Princess is also a personal stylist. So hit her up. Like she is the bomb.com. Okay? So definitely hit her up. If, invest in yourself because your presentation outwardly says a lot about who you are and how you show up in the world. So any lasting thoughts, Princess, for us?
Yes, I mean, I feel like even times where it's difficult in life, it's all intentional. Like I mean, I remember when I had the breakup, that's what birthed my creativity. I remember feeling like, and I think I said it to him too. I was just like, I wish I was a statue so I couldn't feel anything. But me feeling birthed something else in me that I don't know would have come out of, I don't know if it would have come out if I didn't have to break up or if I don't know how God would have moved because I know God wanted me to be on this path. But trust the processes in life. Everything is intentional. Nothing goes to waste. Like I mentioned before, the gentleman that I was talking to, I was thinking, I didn't know where I was going to get boxes for my business. It was him who dropped the note of, listen, it was even, I was dating a guy and he told me the position I have now at Columbia, it was him who said, I'm a department administrator. I have like more flexibility. When I met Cindy, she mentioned that. I was just like, oh my goodness. Like I gotta go into this position so I could have opportunities to be able to do what I'm supposed to do. I didn't know how it was gonna come together, but nothing goes to waste. That's the most pivotal thing I can think of. Every situation, there's a reason behind it. You should be introspective. You should learn from it, but absolutely nothing goes to waste.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm so inspired by you, Princess. I'm going to now go into the questions. If you have a question, please show some love, those of you that are on here, for our fabulous Princess Dennis. The first question that I have here from Big Yoni Energy. First of all, that name. First of all, them colors, okay? When you sold that first coat, did it feel like riding a bike again? What a great question.
Man, it did. It was like how they say with people who work out muscle memory. It was like I literally was like, friend, you still got it. Like, and I was like, wow, God chose you. Like, I'm like, it was still so weird. Like, and it still is weird because it's not something I chose for myself, but it literally felt like Prin, you're chosen and you are on the right path. All the signs that you got, it was for a reason. There's no mistake in this. There's no mistaking this.
Wow, wow. And Dr. E says, I super appreciate slow fashion. Thank you for naming your price. And I remember recently we were at some gathering. I'm trying to remember which gathering because we go to a lot of different things. But you talked about like the confidence when you built your website and put that price, and it was like, bam. And it's almost like when you do something and then you run away and you're like, let's see what's gonna happen now, right? And also like just that confidence of like, yeah, that's what my energy, my skill set is worth, right? So those of us that are entrepreneurs, there's many of you on here, sometimes we struggle with pricing and figuring out what am I worth, whether it's products that you're selling or services that you're providing. You're providing, those of us that are believers, right? We're doing God's work, whether it's in fashion, whether it's selling a cup of coffee, whether it's a sports endeavor, whether it's plant medicine. I see Kenny on here, my plant medicine person, right? Whatever it is that you are, the gifts that you've been, provided, they are to be shared. And so I love that you're sharing your gifts. Princess, I know that there is more to come for you. I'm so excited. Does anyone else have any questions?
Nina, I also just want to say one thing in the comment to Dr. E saying, I'm glad that you named your price. I remember I went to my cousin's birthday party and a young lady who I was in a book club with, right? Just like a young lady that I know, she came to me and was like, Princess, I put you in my budget. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And she was like, I put you in my budget. You're going to be my first big girl coat. I was like, oh my God. Because out of all the companies, she said, I put you in my budget. You're going to be my first big girl coat. I'll never forget that.
Wow. Wow. I mean, because we budget for everything else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We budget, and you're wow. So that side just popped on. She's a teenager, loving, amazing young lady. That I love that, our young people are hopping on to these lives, and there's some things that, we can share out to the world. And that's why I love doing these candid conversations. I am so proud of you, says Big Yoni Energy. And Dr. E says, eso. So us Latinos, we say eso. And we're like, that's what we're talking about, right? And so thank you, Princess, for sharing of your time, your gifts, talents, and abilities. Please make sure that you take a moment out to follow Nekai Léon, to visit the website, to save your coins for the next launching. I'm sure that she has something amazing planned for the fall line. There's definitely those dusters that you want to get a hold of and make a purchase on. So where can people find you? Could you share what services are you offering and what's the best way that folks can connect with you?
Absolutely. So you can either connect with me on my personal Instagram, which is Princess Dennis _. And my business Instagram is Nekai Léon, which is NEKAILEON. So right now I am a fashion designer, but I also do closet reorganization. So I can help people with that. I can help, and pretty much what that includes is looking through your closet, assessing what you need in your closet based on your shape, and figuring out what new pieces can you incorporate into your wardrobe for your new you. And one of those pieces could possibly be a suggestion of my line.
Yes. Oh, yes. So please make sure that you share this information out with your folks. This conversation will be on the YouTube page within the next couple of hours. Thank you so much, Princess, for being you.
One more
Yes.
thing,
Hmm.
Donna. And you can DM me if you want to contact me. You could DM me in either of those pages that I mentioned, Princess Dennis or Nekai Léon. And thank you so much, Nina, for this opportunity. This is amazing. I loved it.
Wonderful. Wait, we have Carmen just said something. She said, I went onto the website and they are beautiful. My question, are you going to continue making the coats yourself?
So as of right now, I am. I eventually would love to hire another seamstress to assist me in the process. But yes, for right now, I am. Hmm.
You know, and I just thought like I'm not gonna leave and come back, but I should have had like my coat on for the end. So folks can see it. But I'm so silly like that, right? So listen, enjoy your Thursday. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Everybody that's on here, those of you watching the
Everyone.
replay, give Princess Dennis some love in the DM, in the chat box. Nekai Léon. Have a fantastic rest of the
Thank
day.
you,
Take care,
Nina.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye
everyone. Bye
bye.
bye.